Hello and welcome to Wisconsin in Focus, powered by the Center Square. I'm Dan McCaleb, executive editor of the Center Square Newswire service. Joining me again today is the Center Square's Wisconsin correspondent, Benjamin Yount. Ben, before we get into this week's news, I think I owe you an apology for calling you out publicly on your preseason prediction for the Green Bay Packers. They now appear to be as mediocre as you'd said they'd be. There's my mea culpa. Your quick response?
6-11, I think at this point would make an awful lot of Packer fans happy. There is real worry that they are going to lose to the Broncos. Real worry.
That would be something if they did, because the Broncos are bad.
Very.
Well, hopefully not, but we'll know soon enough. Okay, now let's get into the news, Ben. Republicans in the legislature are ramping up their criticism of Milwaukee's mayor's plan to significantly raise salaries at City Hall, including his own. This comes after lawmakers at the Wisconsin Capitol agreed to allow Milwaukee and Milwaukee County to raise their sales taxes. Tell us more, Ben.
This comes after probably 2 or 3 years of Milwaukee crying poor. And I know that that's sort of hyperbolic, but the city of Milwaukee, every time there was talk of pension reform, every time there was a city budget, every time we went through the sort of police reform summer of 2020 after the George Floyd death, the city of Milwaukee literally came before everyone, reporters, the city council, the state legislature, and they said, we don't have any money. Now, it was true. The city of Milwaukee was headed towards a ticking pension time bomb. The pension payment was set to double either here 2023 or next year 2024. And Milwaukee simply didn't have enough money to pay it. There were talks of closing down entire firehouses or laying off dozens upon dozens of police officers and then not hiring anyone who retired, leaving huge vacancy numbers. There also talk about closing down public libraries and all of the sort of things that you get when a city says, oh, well, we need more money somehow. And so the grand bargain that came about during the spring was shared revenue. This was the plan that would not only send more state tax money to local communities, Milwaukee, as well as every other city across the state, but Milwaukee and Milwaukee County were given for the first time ever the ability to raise their own taxes. Milwaukee could institute a new sales tax of up to 2%, which they did immediately. That's going to be $16 million a month, just under $200 million a year. And very quietly, very sort of Cavalier Johnson, the mayor of Milwaukee, introduced a plan that would give elected officials in the city a 15% raise. Many other top officials would get a 10% raise. And this struck Republican lawmakers exactly as you think it would, that they were pointing out. Barb Dietrich was the one from Oconomowoc, and she's suburban Milwaukee. She said, I thought Milwaukee was on the brink of bankruptcy. Where did all of this money come from? And the unified chorus from Republican lawmakers was, this is not why we voted to allow Milwaukee to raise its own taxes. And this is not why we voted to send Milwaukee more money. The money that they wanted to send was earmarked for cops or roads or other key infrastructure, pensions. This shows you sort of how far down the line these Republican lawmakers did not trust the city of Milwaukee. They specifically, in the shared revenue legislation, banned the city from using any of the new money on the streetcar, the HOP, which does a little circle around the tourist areas in Milwaukee and is largely regarded as a joke. But that's how little they trusted. I just don't think that any Republicans thought that the mayor would actually this quickly immediately turn around and say, well, we've got $16 million a month coming in. We all deserve a pay raise. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, speaking of that, just to give our listeners an idea of what a pay raise of this size looks like, Milwaukee's mayor, Cavalier Johnson, under his plan, his salary would go from $147,000 annually to $169,000 annually. That's a $22,000 a year raise.
And it comes at a time when more and more people here in Wisconsin are falling further and further behind. The median price for a house is up. Gas is down a bit, but it's still more expensive than it was a couple of years ago. The price for cars, the price to send your kids to a University of Wisconsin school went up in the fall, and property taxes continue to go up. So the mayor getting a 15% raise at a time when most people are lucky to get a cost of living adjustment, if they even get that. A lot of folks just got nothing over the past couple of years. This is one of these things that just rubs people the wrong way, that there are certain stories out of government that when you take a look, and we don't have a final price tag for just how much these raises are going to be, but when you take a look at the grand scheme of the money, I mean, Milwaukee's budget is $1 billion+. So even a couple of million is relatively small, but this is one that's real. This is one where people go, wait, hold on, that's not fair. Government is real in cops and snowplows and high school football and pay raises for the mayor that he introduces himself. That's when you get people's attention, and that's when you get people who are really, really, really upset about this.
Yeah, and even regular taxpayers, working Joes and Janes, even if they got a 4% increase, last year, their last review, whatever, with inflation, as you mentioned, that's really a pay decrease, because they're paying more than 4% for just about everything.
And don't forget that this pay raise is going to come because Milwaukee is not only raising its sales tax 2%, the county is raising its sales tax about 1%. So people in Milwaukee are going to be paying more on whatever they buy to pay for this, but Mayor Johnson's city budget also increases property taxes, so you're going to be paying more for your home. And you said it right. You said it exactly. A lot of people are lucky to hold steady, and yet they're going to pay more. And the mayor is now going to get more. And a lot of people are pointing out, what are they getting? The roads are still choppy. The schools in Milwaukee are not great. It's still a city that is dangerous in many parts.
So just wrap us up briefly, Ben. What's next? This is not in effect yet, but it still has to get the approval of the city council.
This has to get the approval of the city council, who would benefit from getting a pay raise. And, I've covered enough of these over my years that there will be some people who will make some impassioned speeches, and then this will very quietly pass. I fully expect. The city council president, Jose Perez, said that they're going to give it a serious look. And he said, look, we have not gotten pay raises over the years. Their pay has been stuck at, where it was 15 years ago. And so they absolutely believe that this is justified. And so, usually with these pay raise votes, you have one or two people stand up and they put on a show, essentially. Don't want to be that cynical, but it is. They put on a show of saying, no, we don't, we chose this life and the taxpayers and they work hard. And I think it is abhorrent that we are going to take their money. And then they sit down and everyone votes and everyone gets the pay raise. And at the end of the day, they take home larger paychecks that are paid for by taxpayers.
Thank you, Ben. But that is all the time we have. Listeners can keep up with this ongoing story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Ben Yount, I'm Dan McCaleb. Please subscribe and thank you for listening.